to another episode of Unleashing the Voice with Bridget Adams. This episode is called Removing the Filters and Healing the Lens. I touched a little bit on filters in the last episode. Make sure you go back and check that out. So today we're going to dive into a revelation that came to me about filters. So if you go back and look at the last episode, I talked about getting up and fighting and getting up and fighting and not being passive and allowing life to just pass us by. But as I was thinking about getting up to fight, God gave me a revelation. He gave me one word, and it was filters. And a lot of times filters will keep us stuck, right? Would keep us stuck in a place where it blurs reality, right? It helps us cope by softening what we don't want to face. And as I thought about filters, God kept giving me revelation. So we had the filters, right, to filter out the pain. But behind the filter is a broken lens, right? So we're looking out of broken lenses, and because we're looking out the broken lens, we have to put a filter on top of it so we can cope a little bit better. So the broken lenses can come from things that we've dealt with in our lifetime, childhood experiences, things like that. But behind the broken lenses is the heart. And what happens is the heart has been cracked, right? The heart has been broken. Things have been done to you to cause those heartbreaks, right? And because of the heartbreaks, you have a broken lens now. Now you're looking out of the lens of pain and of hurt and of heartache. And because you can't cope with it, you filter it, right? It got to show me all those things connect. You have your heart posture, and you have the broken lenses that you're looking at and the filter. But after you get up and fight, you have to heal those things. And that's from learning the truth, right? The truth. And that's allowing God to heal a thing, because if you don't recognize that there are issues, if you don't face the truth about the lenses and the heartache and the filters that you put on it, it can't be healed. You can't heal what you don't reveal. Amen. Amen. So I want to go back a little bit and let's break it down. So the first thing I want to talk about is a filter. You know, we can apply emotional filters. We convince ourselves that things are not that bad, that maybe the relationship isn't that toxic, or maybe we're fine when deep down we are breaking. The truth is, it keeps us safe from actually we think it keeps us safe. Let me say that. We think it keeps us safe without actually having to deal with an issue. But the thing about it is, when you don't deal with those issues, when you keep sugarcoating everything or looking at it out of rose-colored glasses, you that keeps you stuck. That keeps you stuck. And sometimes we are lying to ourselves. And then sometimes we're not, but aren't we? If we're filtering a thing, we are kind of lying to ourselves in a sense, because we put something over the broken lens. So then we're looking, well, I'll say this. Sometimes we are lying to ourselves. Sometimes we know that there are issues. We know that there's a problem, but because we don't want to deal with it, because it takes more to deal with the thing than not, we put filters over it. Then I think you do have people who, you're not lying to yourself, but your lens is so broken until you don't know what reality is. And you're looking through the broken lens. It actually changes what's in front of you. It distorts how you see a thing. So when a lens is cracked, every image that you look behind the cracked lens, it bends around the break. So it distorts what it looks like. And that's what happens when our heart has been hurt or disappointed or rejected. Our perception of a thing bends, and it bends around the pain. We stop seeing things as they are. we see them the way we are, what we perceive from the broken lens. Does that make sense? All right, I'm going somewhere, y'all. Hang out with me for a second. Things that can crack that lens is rejection. Rejection makes you see correction as criticism. Neglect can make love feel suspicious, and shame can make affirmation feel undeserved. And so we filter those things, and and gosh, you think about rejection, that lens is cracked, right? So you start guarding yourself so that you won't be rejected. So then that makes your heart harden, and you put this wall up that people can't penetrate so that you won't be rejected anymore. And then you think about neglect. You know, if you've been neglected in your life, if you've grown up neglected, or you've been in a relationship where you were neglected and you decide, I am not going to allow myself to be neglected again. Then when you have somebody that comes who wants to take care of you and to love you, you're suspicious of their love because of that neglect. And so you're perceiving it out of a cracked lens. You're perceiving it from your hurt and your pain. And then shame. Shame is something that a lot of us deal with. Shame will stop you from doing a lot of things. And because we've been shamed, or the things that we've done we're ashamed of, we condemn ourselves because it feels undeserved. I talked about this in and I think my first episode. I stayed in different relationships. I stayed in things that I knew I shouldn't have been in, but because I didn't feel like I deserved more than what I was getting, shame, right? I stayed there. So I wasn't lying to myself in that aspect. I just didn't feel like I deserved more. So I took that cracked lens of shame and I put a filter over it to say, I don't deserve any more than what I'm getting. So we have to look at the truth of a thing. And the thing about a filter is, the more you filter a thing, the more it becomes normal. And that brings me to my next big filter: dysfunction. The filter of dysfunction. And I feel like it's one of the hardest ones to recognize. I'm reading my notes here. One of the hardest ones to recognize because it's so familiar, right? And it's like, even if you may have grown up in dysfunction and chaos, or your life might have been dysfunction and chaos, most of the time I feel like a lot of times I think it's twofold. You could grow up in dysfunction and you don't know anything but dysfunction. You cannot grow up in dysfunction, but you can put yourself in situations that cause dysfunction. And shame is one of the ways that you end up putting yourself in situations that you're not supposed to be in, but because, like I just said, you're condemning yourself and you think you don't deserve any more than what you're getting, you stay in these situations that's dysfunctional. So you continue to put yourself in dysfunction, or you don't heal the cracked lens of dysfunction from your childhood or the way that you grew up. So all you know is dysfunction. That's it. Just your coping mechanism, your lens is dysfunction. So then you put a filter to say, oh, that's just how life is. It is what it is. It ain't gonna get no better than that. That's just what it is. That's just how relationships work. You know, we fight with whatever we think is cute. Because that's what we know. And that's just how it's always been. That's just how it's been. That's how it's gonna be. That's how it's gonna stay. And that's just life. If you ain't fighting, you ain't doing something right. If you ain't arguing, you ain't doing something right. Like, we have really tricked ourselves into thinking that dysfunction and chaos is normal. And that peace is unheard of. I think we can look at other people and see them in peaceful situations, and sometimes we'll say, oh, that's awesome, that's great. And then because we have that dysfunction, we can say, oh, they just putting on, like, there's no way anybody's that happy. There's no way anybody is whatever. There's no way that man loves her the way he must be cheating, or he must be doing something. Like, our minds have been so skewed into thinking that we don't deserve happiness, and there are not people out there that can make us happy or be peaceful. But I'm not going to say that because people to make you happy, because you have to recognize those people in order to have those people in your life. And in order to recognize peace, you have to heal the dysfunction. You have to heal the dysfunction. Chaos is not connection. Instability is not a comfort zone. Dysfunction is not normal. But it becomes normal to when you see normal, you don't even recognize it. And I'm going to tell you, I think all of us, I'm not going to say all of us because I don't know everybody, but I think 9 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10, we all have lived through some type of dysfunction that has skewed our outlook. And I think one of the reasons why we stay in dysfunction, because healing is so uncomfortable. Healing is uncomfortable because we don't know what that feels like. So when we start trying to heal, it becomes a struggle. It becomes a struggle because now we have to start healing those cracks and mending things back together. And when you start mending things, that's like a bone breaking, right? And when it starts healing, it hurts. Because things have to fuse back together to become normal again. So that's the same with the heart, with our broken lenses. It's abnormal. So when we start taking the steps to heal, and those things start fusing back together and fitting in the places and connecting the way that God wanted them to, how they were originally supposed to be, it hurts. It hurts. And sometimes it hurts so much until we stop. Ooh, and we go back to dysfunction. But God wants to heal us from that. He doesn't just want to heal our sight or how we look at things and how we filter things. He wants to heal our hearts. Because, like I said, the lens that we're looking out of is connected to our heart. And this brings me to the role of heart posture. Let me explain what heart posture is. It's the spiritual condition of your inner self, your attitude, your belief, and emotional openness toward God and others. It's the lens that determines how you interpret what you see and what you experience. So you see the connection, right? Go back to my notes here. So we connect that. So the revelation of it all is this: the heart causes the cracks because of what you've been through, because of situations, because of However, then the lens carries the distortion, the broken lenses of your heart cracks. And then the filter hides the damage to cover it up so you don't have to deal with it. So now we have layered these things on our heart. We've layered the lens, we've layered the filter. Now God has to go and fix it, as long as you allow him to. And now it's in reverse. We got to take, that's why I started with the filters. We have to take the filters off. Then we have to heal the lens. We have to recognize that we have filters. We have to recognize that our lenses are cracked, right? That we're viewing things with through a cracked lens. Then we have to deal with the heart, which is the hardest thing to deal with, is the heart. And now this is where the pain begins, in the heart. I can remember in a season when I was trying to get to a place and trying to see myself for who I was, right? And so that was, you know, journaling and praying and really trying to figure it out. And as we go along in these podcasts, you're going to hear me talk, especially during this type of episode. You'll hear me talk about the steps that I've been taking, that I took to get to this place. But one thing I recognized was I had such a hardened heart, such a hardened heart. And one of my prayers was, God soften my heart. That literally was one of my prayers, is soften my heart so that I could see you clearly. I can see myself clearly. I can see situations clearly, that I can discern things clearly. One of the scriptures that I wrote down when I was going through this was Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And that doesn't mean hardening your heart. It means just keeping it open enough for God to heal it. Because I think about the song Grateful. Um, flowing from my heart are the issues of my heart, right? Flowing from my heart are issues from my heart. And the issues from your heart are those cracks, are those things. Everything flows from your heart. So if your heart is not healed, anger flows from your heart, resentment, bitterness, evilness flows from your heart because you have not healed a thing. But if you open up your heart and allow God to start healing those things, then love flows from your heart. Acceptance and forgiveness flows from your heart, right? And then the filters start falling off, right? It starts falling off. Um, your heart posture has to be right, because a wounded heart can't see clearly. Then when you start allowing God to heal your heart, when your heart is postured toward God, your vision clears. And then your heart posture determines what you focus on. So if it's off, you're going to focus on the worst of the worst. You're going to interpret pain different. It's going to determine how you respond to truth. It's going to determine how you respond to forgiveness, how your emotions. It depends on what you focus on. And you can pray, and you can journal, and you can fast, and you can do all of those things. But again, if your heart is still guarded, if you are not actively trying to open up your heart and posture it towards the Lord, you will still continue to look through the same wounded filter. Now, It's not easy. It's not easy. And you really have to want to do it. And I know it's hard to forgive certain things, and it's hard to see yourself. And it all starts with trying to see yourself the way God sees you. Yes, things are going to happen. Yes, people are going to disappoint you. Yes, you're going to be hurt. Yes, people are going to reject you. Yes, you've been through all those things. Yes, you've been through painful situations. Yes, that person hurt you. Yes. And I'm not discounting any of those things. I promise I'm not. But I promise this. Whew, I promise that if you open your heart and you allow God to clean it up, heal those broken pieces, those filters will fall off. Your heart posture will shift. Your lens will clear. It will align with the truth. And then once you align with the truth, your vision will align with God's will. I'm going to say that again. Guarding your heart doesn't mean closing it off. It means keeping it open enough for God to do a work in it. Because when your heart posture shifts, your lens clear, and your heart starts aligning with the truth of who you are, the truth of who God is, the truth of who God says you are, then your vision will align with God's will. And once your vision aligns with God's will, then your purpose will start coming forth. And your purpose may have already started coming forth, but because everything was so filtered and cracked and your heart was so broken until you didn't feel like you could do a thing. But this is where your confidence comes, when you start aligning with God and he gives you strength and you believe in who he says you are, and then you align with his will. That was good. What filters have you been using? Ask yourself, am I operating from faith or fear? From wholeness or wounds? So I've come up with a framework, and it's something simple that you can use as you're trying to figure these things out. And I call it the 2 R's DA. Reflect, reframe, declare, and activate. So reflect is taking a moment to be honest about what God revealed to you today, what truth stood out, what hit home. Reframing. So replace the old way of seeing it with God's truth. Shift your perspective from pain or fear to purpose and faith. Declare. Speak over yourself. Speak life over yourself. Use the words to agree with what God says about you, not what the enemy or your emotions say. Activate. Don't just listen, move. Do something this week that aligns with your declaration: faith without works is dead. So I want to give you an example of what that looks like. So maybe you've been telling yourself you're fine, but deep down, you know you've just gotten used to disappointment, because that's a thing, right? So reflect. You stop and admit, God, I've been pretending this doesn't hurt, but I am really tired of being overlooked. Then you reframe it and you remind yourself, I am not invisible. I am chosen. I am seen even when others don't notice. Then you declare, you say it out loud, I am no longer living through filters of rejection. I walk in truth, love, and confidence. Then you activate. You take one small step. Maybe you set a boundary, apply for a job, post a video, or go to church again. Something that aligns with your new declaration. That's how this framework works. It's not just theory, it's transformation in motion. So before we wrap, and I really hope and pray that this really touches you and really gets you to thinking. And I really hope this has been a blessing for you. So before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this week's Revelation Friday. So as I was thinking about this episode, I was thinking about the vision and how we see things and the lenses and thing. And I thought about being at the eye doctor. So my revelation, the spiritual eye exam. Have you ever been to the eye doctor and they put the big machine in front of your face, right? And then they start switching lenses. If you wear glasses, you know what I'm saying. So this A or B, A or B, which one is clear? You say, oh, A, okay. The next one they click B or C, B or C. And they ask which one looks clearer. And you say, oh, 2, whatever. And each lens changes, right? How you see it, how you see the same image. Some are out of focus, some are in focus. But the goal is to find the right combination, right? The one that helps both eyes see clearly. So that's what God does with us spiritually. He is constantly testing our vision, not to fail us, but to focus us. Some of us are looking through the wrong spiritual prescription. One eye sees through faith, the other still sees through fear. One lens is grace, the other is guilt. One sees potential, the other remembers pain. And when those lenses don't match, the whole picture is distorted. You can't see purpose clearly when one eye is looking through healing and the other is looking through hurt. You need both lenses aligned, your heart and your mind, so you can see life the way God intended: focused, balanced, and clear. So when He starts adjusting your vision, switching seasons, shifting people, revealing truth, it's not punishment, it's refinement. He's asking, can you see me now? Is this clearer? As He heals the lens, removes the filters, and aligns both eyes with His vision, you begin to not to see just yourself, but everything with clarity and purpose. God starts adjusting our focus. Some lenses bring things closer, others reveal what's far away. But His goal is to align both eyes, our heart and our mind, so that we can see clearly in this next season. Because now that our vision is clearer, it's time to move. It's time to push past your past and start walking boldly in your purpose. So you've gotten up to fight and you started removing your filters. Now let's step forward with clear eyes and a healed heart. Next week, we are talking about what it looks like to do just that. When you push past what no longer defines you. Some filters come from the past, things we did, things done to us, names we accepted, but your past is not your personality. The next episode, we're breaking agreement with false identity and stepping into who God says you are. So join me next week for episode 4. Your past is not your personality. I pray that this has blessed you. I pray that you are seeing with new eyes. I pray that God reveals to you what you've been filtering, what you need to heal. I pray that your heart is open. I pray that God starts doing a good work in you and you can hear him clearly so you can align with him, align with God's will. Until the next time, I pray you have a great weekend and forget to like, share, and comment so that we can talk about it. Have a good one. Peace.